Everything you've been told about needing sales skills to succeed in remote sales is wrong. After placing 47 people into remote sales, I found something that flipped traditional sales training upside down. The top earners making 8K, 10K, even over 15K a month weren't the best salespeople. Some had zero sales experience. I started the old way, door-to-door sales, call centers, chasing commissions, and burning out. Then I discovered remote sales. No cold calls, no immense pressure on prospects, just results. Now I make over 30K a month and I live in Dubai and I work entirely from my laptop. And after tracking 47 others I've helped, I realized this. The more someone relied on traditional sales skills, the worse they performed. If you've been buying courses, practicing pitches, or trying to sound persuasive, you're training the wrong skill set. In this video, I'll show you why traditional sales skills kills your remote sales success and what the top 1% of closers do differently to hit them 10K and over 30K months. Let's dive in.
Traditional sales has trained people to think it's all about pressure. Get them to say yes, overcome objections, create urgency, sound confident. And while that might work in face-to-face environments or short ticket products, in high-ticket remote sales, that approach completely backfires because people buying high-ticket offers aren't buying out of impulse. They're buying out of clarity. They don't want to be sold to. They want to be understood. What remote sales actually requires, it's not about talking more. It's actually about listening better. Are you with me? It's not about convincing. It's about diagnosing. When you're in remote sales, you're not a salesperson. You're an advisor. So your job isn't to pitch. Your job is to understand the prospect's world so deeply that they feel you already get them better than anyone else. That's when trust is built. That's when real influence happens. If you can get someone to open up and say things they've never told anyone before in their life, they're going to trust you. Because people don't buy from the person who talks the most. They buy from the person who understands them the best. Let me give you an example. Someone says, I've started my business before. So let's say someone says, I've tried starting my business before, but it didn't work. A traditional salesperson will say, oh, well, this program is different. It's proven to get results. But a great remote closer would slow down and say, okay, tell me more. What didn't work before? What got in the way? You see the difference? Someone who wants to listen to someone who just sell. And the person who wants to listen is going to get the sale. That question alone changes everything because now you're not pushing, you're understanding. And when you finally make your offer, it doesn't feel like selling. It feels like helping. So let's go for the first skill I wanted to go over with you. The real skill that separates average closers from top performers is problem diagnose, not persuasion. In sales, people are taught to convince anyone and everyone to buy. They think success comes from being smooth, charming, or pushy enough to make the sale happen. But in remote sales, that's not the same. Your job isn't to convince everyone. It's to identify who actually has the problem you can solve. Because great salespeople don't waste time chasing people who don't need help. They know exactly what kind of person, situation, or pain point qualifies as a real opportunity. That's what companies want. Let me sort my seat out. People who can qualify, not people who can beg for the sale. And when you diagnose a problem fast, you instantly stand out. You ask better questions, you find clarity earlier, and you save everyone's time. You save everyone's time, including yourself. If you jump on the call, you say to the prospect, okay, what are you struggling with at the moment? And then they say, oh, I'm not struggling with anything. I don't know why I'm here. Then just end the call. But if you get the prospects to open up, you realize they've got a problem. Everyone's time is saved. You can see they need your help and the connection's built. One of my top club performers, Sam, closes 60% of his calls. Not because he's a great talker or he waffles, because he only talks to qualified prospects. He knows exactly what to listen for in the first 5 minutes of a call. If it's not a good fit, he doesn't force it. He moves on. That's what iTicket sales is about. That's why he's consistent and that's why he wins. Let's go to skill 2. Solution translation, not pitching. Okay, this is the second real skill that matters in remote sales. Traditional sales teaches you to present, talk about features, benefits, why your service or product is the best in the industry. But in remote sales, it actually kills your conversion, because the more complicated you sound, the less your prospects connects with you. Your goal isn't to educate people. It's to translate it's to translate what you do into their language. When you're on a call in remote sales, you've got to not talk much. Literally, so the prospect understands what you're saying. If you're waffling so much, you've gone off topic and your prospect's thinking, what's going on? What's he waffling about? So taking something complex and make it sound simple, relatable, and obvious. When a prospect understands how your offer fits into their life, the decision becomes effortless. You're not pushing, you're showing them clarity. And clarity is what makes people take action. Let me say that again. Customers buy when they understand, not when they're impressed. One of my closers, Ali, he makes around £5,000 every month. Not because he's flashy, not because he's aggressive, but because he explains things so clearly that the prospects literally sell themselves. So stop trying to over-explain your offer. Stop trying to sound too smart. Start making it make sense, because the clearer you are, the more confident your prospect feels. And when you feel confident, they buy. Let's go into the third skill that actually matters, is process following, not creativity. In traditional sales, you're told to use your personality, to freestyle, make it your own. And sure, that might work when you're selling face to face or working off charm. But in remote sales, that's not what companies are looking for. They don't want you to reinvent the wheel. They want you to drive the car that's already built. Every successful remote sales teams run on a system, a proven process that's been tested, refined, and optimized. Your job isn't to rewrite it, it's to follow it. It's to follow it exactly as designed. Because companies don't pay you for personality, they pay you for predictability. Companies want results that can be repeated. They want to know that they can plug into their system. They'll get consistent outcomes, not random results. But here's the truth. Creativity shows up when you trust the process. But once you commit to it, you realize how much smoother, faster, and easier your calls become. One of my closers, Sarah, used to struggle because she kept adding her own spin to how the call should go. She thought being different would help her stand out, and she tried being too smart. And when she finally stopped this, her close rate shot up overnight. Her first week following the proven system, she closed more deals than her previous month combined. So here's the lesson. In remote sales, creativity can cost you consistency. Follow the system, trust the framework, because discipline beats personality every single time. So why traditional skills actually hurt you? We've got 3 problems here, the main 3 problems. So let's start with the first problem. Let me zoom in there so you can see the first problem. Okay. Traditional sales skills make you sound like every other salesperson. Think about it. Companies are tired. They're tired of hearing the same robotic pitches, the same persuasion tactics, the same fake enthusiasm. They've heard it all before. And the moment you start sounding like that, they instantly put you in that box of, oh, another salesperson. They don't want closers who sound like they're reading from a script. They want consultants, advisors, people who actually understand a client's world and that can guide them through a decision. Traditional sales teaches you to talk more. Remote sales rewards you for listening better. And that's where most people go wrong. They're just busy trying to sell, while top performers are busy trying to understand. You know how you can tell someone's new in sales because they sound like they're performing. They're trying to impress. Like, oh, I've done door to door for 10 years. I was the best on the sales department. No one cares because you can tell when someone's mastered it because they sound calm, curious, and confident. No pressure, no pitch, just control. That's what companies are looking for. Someone who doesn't sound like a salesperson, but still sells effortlessly. So if you're still relying on these old school techniques, the pressure, the overconfidence, you're not standing out. You're just blending in. Drop the scripts, be a consultant, because in remote sales, the less you sound like a salesperson, the more sales you actually make. But here's another big problem. Big problem. Traditional sales focuses on the wrong metrics. In traditional sales, you're judged by one number. How many people did you close? Everything revolves around your closing percentage, as if that's the only thing that matters, and it's not. But in remote sales, that mindset will destroy your performance, guys. It would destroy it. When you obsess over closing percentage, you start acting desperate. I've been there. When you're so obsessed about, I need to close. When you get on that call, you can feel the desperation. Your prospect can feel it. Wow, this person's hungry for their commissions and they won't want to pay you. Okay. When you act desperate, you push harder, you skip the steps, you stop listening, and that energy kills your deals. The best closers don't chase the close. They follow the system. They know that if they qualify properly, ask the right questions, and guide the conversations the right way, the close takes care of itself. I've seen it over and over again. 2 reps with the same offer, same leads, same calls. One is obsessed about closing and the other one is obsessed about doing the process right. And guess who wins long term? It's always the one who trusts the system. If you're in remote sales and you're still chasing numbers like in 2010, just stop. Just stop. Stop focusing on the outcome and start focusing on the process, because companies reward consistency. Okay? Every time they reward consistency. So let's go to the final problem. The final problem. This one's the real killer, because traditional sales doesn't give you the wrong skills. It gives you the wrong mindset. In traditional sales, you're taught to overcome objections, push harder, handle resistance, convince people who said no. You're given every objection can be beaten. Just say the right thing. But in remote sales, that mindset completely backfires, because remote sales isn't about forcing a fit. It's about finding the right one. Your goal isn't to win every call. It's to figure out whether that person is actually the right match for what you're offering. Because remote sales isn't about forcing it. It's about finding the right fit. Your goal isn't to win every call. It's to figure out whether that person is actually the right match for what you're offering. Okay? Traditional sales, it says, how do I make this person buy now? Remote sales ask, is this someone I can really help? And that one shift changes everything. This matters because when your mindset is all about closing everyone, you start chasing, you start talking too much, you start trying to fix people who aren't even ready. And that energy, that desperation, it repels real buyers. And when your mindset is, I'm here to see if we're a good fit, you relax. You lead with curiosity, not pressure. And ironically, that's when you close more, because the right people trust you faster when they feel you're not trying to force anything. One of my closers used to stress every time when someone said, I need to think about it. He'll chase, follow up too much, try to overcome it. But the moment he switched it to, no problem, take your time. Let's just make sure this is a right fit. Everything changed. He started having calmer conversations, less pressure, and more people started saying yes. So here's the truth. Here's the big truth. Let me just show it in here. Traditional sales builds a hunter's mindset. Remote sales builds a consultant mindset. One is about convincing, the other one is about clarity. And if you want to win long term, you need to stop trying to overcome everyone and just be having the right conversations with the right prospects. Okay, so you know what's funny? I will tell you about one of our students, Ali. Ali came to us after spending £4,000 on sales training. And not just any training, I'm talking about the flashy kind with the big promises. Learn to close high ticket deals in 30 days, become a top 1% closer. He thought that after spending that kind of money, he'd be unstoppable. But here's the truth. The training actually made him worse at remote sales. And I know that sounds backwards, like how does more training make you worse? But if you've ever gone through traditional sales training and then tried to apply it to remote high ticket sales, you know exactly what I mean. When I first spoke to Ali, I could tell straight away he wasn't bad at sales. He was just overtrained. He'd memorized all the buzzwords, the closing tricks, but he couldn't hold a real human conversation. He'd say things like, what was he saying now? He'd say, I totally understand, but if I could show you a way to achieve your goals faster, would you be open to that? He sounded like he was reading off a script, and prospects can feel that. And I remember thinking, no wonder people hang up on him. He was trying to sound like a closer instead of a consultant. See, most traditional sales training is built for one environment, in person, high pressure, transactional sales. That's the car dealership, the door to door, the gym membership sale, where it's all about pushing urgency, handling objections. Remote sales is completely different. When you're on a Zoom with a qualified prospect who already knows what the offer is, you don't need to convince them. You just need to translate what the offer means to them. And that's what Ali never learned. Let me tell you something that sounds controversial, okay? Too much sales training can actually ruin you because every course out there is teaching tactics, lines, little tricks, little hidden tricks to say, word for word scripts. Like if you're learning from 5 different trainers or from different philosophies, it just becomes an utter mess. You end up confused. You start overthinking. You start talking too much because you're trying to remember every rule instead of just listening to the person in front of you. Ali was exactly doing that. He had so many frameworks in his head that he forgot how to just connect. When I asked him how his calls were going, he would say, what was he saying now? He'd say, I get people on a call, I say all the right things, but they don't move forward. Yeah, because you're just pushing, you're just throwing so much urgency at them and they get irritated. And I told him that's because you're focusing on sounding right, not being real. And remote sales, people can feel your energy. They just can. They can tell if you're trying to do the right move instead of generally trying to help. That's why I told him, Ali, if I can teach you how to sell properly, you need to unlearn everything they taught you. You need to. And that was a turning point. I said, okay, let's start with 0. Forget closing ratios. Forget all those scripts. Just learn how to listen again. Just listen. And that's where the real work began. Focused on consulting, not convincing, on translating and not selling. Because at its core, remote sales is about helping someone make sense of their problem and showing them how the offer aligns with their goals. We broke his core structures. No, what we did was, what was that second train? Okay, so we broke all his core structure into 3 parts. First part, understanding the gap. Where his clients at now and where they want to be. Second, connecting emotionally. What's the real reason they want to solve this? And the third, guiding the decision. Showing them what life looks like on the other side. That's it. No little tricks, no fake scarcity, just pure clarity and connection. I told him, you're not a salesperson, you're a translator of value. Because when someone understands the value of something, you don't need to close them. They've closed themselves, literally. Within a few weeks, everything started to shift. And that's why this message really hits me. He goes, honestly, Mike, I appreciate everything you've done for me. Your team have done for me. I was lost in life before this. Thank you, bro. Because when you've been given something and you're working so hard, you think, I've got everything. Why is it not working? Is it me? No. Because the formula you've been given is wrong. And then you start blaming yourself. So within a few weeks, everything started to shift. His energy on calls changed. He wasn't nervous anymore because he wasn't trying to perform. He was just having real conversations. And guess what? People started saying yes more often. He wasn't even changing his offer, just his approach. 1 month he hit 3,500, then 4,200. And now he's doing £5,000 a month consistently, minimum. That's more than double what he was making at his old call center job, where he was grinding for hours, chasing leads and getting nowhere. The irony. The less sales he did, the more deals he closed. Because he finally understood that remote sales is not about pushing. It's about positioning. It's wild how different traditional sales and remote sales actually are. So here's Lewis. He was a top performer in his old sales job. I'm talking 85% closing rate. The guy. He had all the trophies, the commissions, the bragging rights. Everyone at his company looked at him as the closer. That's the guy. Let's all learn from him. But when he tried to move into remote sales, everything fell apart. He couldn't get hired. And when he finally did, he struggled for a bit to close even the simplest deals. The same guy who used to dominate in-person sales was suddenly unsure, hesitant and frustrated, but it didn't make sense to him. Okay. He had the skill set. He had the work ethic. He'd done this before. So why wasn't it working? But here's the truth. In an office or face-to-face environment, Lewis relied on his energy. He could read body language, feed off reactions, control the tone of the room. He could win people over with presence. But when you're doing remote sales, you don't have the advantage. It's just you, your voice, and your ability to understand people deeply. And that's where Lewis was falling apart. He was just falling apart. He was still trying to sell in an environment that demanded consulting, still using the same high pressure frameworks, the same always be closing mentality. And it was just backfiring at him. His calls sounded rehearsed. His tone sounded pushy. Prospect could sense that he was trying to win the sale instead of helping them to make a decision. And in remote sales, the second someone feels like you're trying to convince them, the trust is gone. It's gone. The first thing I told him was simple but uncomfortable. You're not bad at sales. You're just playing the wrong game. That is it. Traditional sales is built around persuasion. Remote sales is built around translation. Okay? It's not about convincing someone you're right. It's about helping them to see clearly why your offer aligns with their goals, their fears, and their pain points. So we stripped everything back. We unlearned all the overcomplicated tactics, the canned lines, the fake confidence, and we rebuilt his process from the ground up. I said, stop trying to close people. Just start consulting them. That meant slowing down, listening more, asking deeper questions, understanding why someone's on the call in the first place, not just what they say they want. Okay. The turning point for Lewis was when he realized this. Remote sales isn't about getting someone to buy. It's about helping them understand what's keeping them stuck. He stopped pitching and started probing. Instead of saying, this is why you should invest, he started asking, what stopped you from solving this? And that single question changed everything because prospects started opening up. They went from guarded and defensive to honest and engaged. And Lewis didn't have to sell anymore. He was just guiding them to their own realization. And that's the power of consulting. You don't chase, you lead. You don't convince, you clarify. And when you do that, people sell themselves. So on the 13th of April, he joined. Then he started doing 4K weeks, 2K weeks. And I remember in June we've done a video and his goal was to do 10K a month. And now he's consistently doing 10K a month. It's not just the money. It's how he earns it. He's calm on calls. He's confident but not cocky. He controls the conversations without forcing it. And his offer owner, the person who runs the business, literally told me, Lewis is the best closer we've ever had. And it's funny because he's not doing anything fancy. He's not using them little tricks or pressure tactics. He's just having real conversations and translating what the offer means to each individual person. That's it. That's the shift. That's the reason he went from being stuck and frustrated to thriving and consistent. That's the real lesson here. He stopped trying to convince people and started helping them understand, because people don't buy when they feel pushed. They buy when they feel understood. They might buy if you've pushed them, then they demand a refund a few weeks after. The best closers in remote sales aren't the loudest or the most persuasive. They're the ones who make people feel safe to make a decision. Lewis didn't need a new offer. He didn't need a new script. He didn't need a new approach. He needed to stop being the top closer and start being the trusted guide. And that's what changes everything. So if you're watching this, you've been great at sales before, maybe you've crushed it in your traditional role, but for some reason, you just can't break through to remote sales. It's not that you lost your talent, and it's mainly because you're just playing the wrong game. Traditional sales rewards persuasion. Remote sales rewards understanding. Once you make that shift, your income, your confidence, and your consistency all change. That's exactly what happened to Lewis and happened to Ali. You know what I find fascinating? Every single week, I speak to talented people who are doing everything the way they were taught. And yet they're still struggling to close deals. They're watching sales videos, repeating the scripts, practicing tonality in the mirror, memorizing objection scripts. But when they get on calls, the prospect says, "Let me think about it," or "I'll get back to you." It's not that they're lazy or untalented. It's that the game has changed. 10 years ago, sales was about persuasion. Today, it's about clarity. Prospects are smarter. They've watched the same YouTube videos you have. They've been on 20 discovery calls before you. They can tell when you're selling versus when you're helping. So in 2025, your success doesn't come from having the best sales script. It comes from having the best understanding. That's the shift we're talking about today. From salesperson to consultant. I've helped people make that transformation. People like Ali and Lewis. Ali spent £4,000 on training. That made him worse. Lewis had an 85% closing rate in corporate sales, but couldn't land a single remote client. Both of them had to unlearn what they thought they knew. Ali now earns £5,000 a month consistently. Lewis is at $10,000, and his offer owner literally said he's the best closer they've ever had. We're going deep into the 5-step transformation that turns salespeople into trusted consultants. Step 1, immediate action. Do this now. And it starts with hitting the reset button, because right now, most people are addicted to learning about sales instead of learning about people. If that's you, pause. I'm not saying never learn again. I'm saying stop over consuming content that teaches you what to say and start studying why people buy. Take 1 week. Just 7 days and detox from sales training. Here's what to do instead. Study your target industry. If you sell marketing services, study how companies lose leads and why. If you sell coaching, study the psychology of transformation. If you sell software, study how businesses make adoption decisions. When you speak your prospect's language, you'll never have to handle objections. You'll prevent them before they appear. Number 2, another thing you should do, you map your customers' world list, their top frustrations, fears, their desired outcomes. Understand how they define success. Because when you understand their definitions, your pitch automatically adapts. Another thing, practice explaining complex things so simply. So take one idea from your offer, maybe your process, your methodology, and explain it so clearly a 12-year-old could understand it. That's how you build clarity muscle. And clarity It builds confidence for both you and the prospects. So here's a little mini challenge from me to you. Stop studying closing tactics for 7 days. Start studying human behavior. Step 2. This is where everything changes. Everything. It's the mindset shift from persuader to translator. Traditional sales trains you to convince. Remote sales trains you to clarify. The difference is subtle but massive. A persuader tries to make people agree. A translator helps people understand. When you're a persuader, you talk 70% of the time. When you're a translator, you listen 70% of the time. Okay? So 70% of the time you're talking. Now 70% of the time you're listening. I want you to try something. For the next week, treat every conversation, not just sales calls, as consulting practice. When someone tells you about a problem, don't jump in with advice. Just ask, okay, why do you think that keeps happening? Or what would that mean if you fix that? You'll start seeing patterns, emotional triggers, limiting beliefs, values. That's real world data you'll use later in your calls. See, persuasion focuses on techniques. Consulting focuses on truth. When you stop trying to win and start trying to understand, you create spaces of trust. Okay. And when trust shows up, resistance disappears. I'll tell you about Lewis. Lewis used to push prospects so hard. His energy was great, but it felt heavy. And after he made that mindset shift, he said something I'll never forget. I finally realized I don't have to close people. I just have to help them decide. That's the essence of consulting. Step 3 is deeper learning. Developing the 3 consultant skills that actually matter. Number 1, diagnose your ability to uncover the real problem behind the surface problem. Okay. Let me give you a good example there. Okay. Let's say a prospect says, I can't afford it. That's rarely about money. It's about belief. Maybe they've wasted money before. Maybe they don't trust themselves to follow through. Your job is to find the truth behind the words. Ask, okay, what would happen if nothing changes in the next 6 months? Okay, what have you tried so far? And okay, why do you think it didn't work? Diagnosis isn't about interrogation. It's about curiosity. Once you understand their problem, okay, translate your offer into their language, okay? Don't say, we help marketing agencies scale. Say, you'll spend less time chasing clients and more time delivering results. Don't say, we offer fitness coaching. Say, you'll wake up with energy and wear clothes you actually like again. That's translation. You turn features into feelings. The thing I want to touch on deeper learning is leadership is guiding the decision calmly and confidently, not pushing, guiding. You're not a hunter. You're a guide. You're not a hunter. You're a guide leading someone through a confusing forest. Great leadership sounds like, here's why I recommend, and here's why. You don't have to decide now. One thing I touch on there is people follow clarity. Traditional sales handles objections. Consultants eliminate them. When you've diagnosed and you've translated properly, there's nothing left to object to. Let's look at real world comparisons. A traditional person, totally understand, but if I could show you the way to make the investment back in 30 days, would you be open? It's just boring. Everyone says that. A consultant will say, okay, can I ask, when you say you're worried about the cost, is it because you're unsure of the return or because of the cash flow right now? Same topic, completely different language. The first sounds rehearsed. The second sounds human. People buy from humans, not script, not some AI bot. Step 4 is being part of the right community. And this one's bigger than what people think, because let's face it, it's harder to change your behavior when the environment around you hasn't changed. If everyone around you still idolizes the Wolf of Wall Street style of selling, you need proximity to people who are already succeeding with the consulting approach. Inside our community, Closers share call recordings, breakdown, and mindset wins. You get to see how a beginner transforms their first few calls, how an experienced salesperson simplifies their processes, how a struggling rep finally breaks through just by changing one question. When you see those real examples, something clicks in your brain, like, wow, this actually works. Community also gives you accountability. When you have people checking in, celebrating wins, calling out blind spots, your growth compounds a lot faster. Isolation, thinking you can do it all on your own, slows you down. Collaboration speeds you up. So if you're serious about mastering remote sales, don't do it alone. So that brings us to step 5. Okay. We got to the end of the video. And I want to leave you with this. Get the right support, because information isn't about transformation. Implementation is. Every month, I work with a small group of closers who are ready to rebuild their system from ground up. We audit calls, we rewrite frameworks, and refine tonality until it feels effortless. It's part mindset, part communication psychology, and part business strategy. We track metrics like ratio of talk versus listen, emotional clarity of each stage, drop-off reasons, and how to pre-address them. The goal is simple: consistency without pressure. I've watched people go from barely surviving to doubling their income within 60 days, not because they found a magic line or a get-rich-quick scheme, because they finally understood why people buy. When you work with a coach or mentor through that transition, you avoid months, sometimes years, sometimes a decade of trial and error. Let's make this practical. Here's what a consultant's daily routine should look like, okay? In the morning, 50 minutes of market research, not scrolling on Instagram, scrolling on TikTok, scrolling through Facebook, seeing what your high school friends are up to, but reading what your audience is talking about. So in the midday, 30 minutes, just call reviews, reviewing your calls. Listen how you come across, not what you said. Evening, journal, 3 lessons. What did I learn about human behavior today? That's how you turn insight into instinct. Do that for 30 days and watch how your conversations transform. You might be thinking, this sounds slow, flipping heck. It's not, it's smarter. You can't out-talk lack of trust. You can only out-understand it. Sales skills are like caffeine. They give you that quick hits, but consulting skills are like compound interest. They pay off forever. Every call you do from now on becomes data for life. You start spotting patterns, predicting objections, understanding decision psychology. You become valuable, not replaceable. And that's why offer owners will fight to keep you, because you're just not a closer, you're an asset. So let's recap the 5 steps to becoming a consultant in remote sales. Step 1, immediate action. Stop chasing tactics. Start studying people. Number 2, mindset shift. Move from a persuader to a translator. Deeper learning, master diagnosis, translation, and leadership. And 4, joining the right community. Surround yourself with those already succeeding. Support. Get hands-on guidance to make it permanent. If you can commit to those 5, you'll never worry about closing skills again, because your conversations will naturally convert. So here's my challenge to you. I know I mentioned it briefly before. For the next 7 days, approach everything you do like a consultant. Study people, simplify your language, ask better questions. You feel the difference immediately. I promise you that. People will lean in, conversations will flow, and you realize you don't need to push. You just need to help people understand. If you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and turn on that bell icon. That bell icon there, click it so you don't miss another video like this. What I'm going to be doing now, every week, I'm breaking down the real psychology behind remote sales. The stuff nobody else is teaching. No one else is teaching what I'm going through right now. And click the link below and let's work together. Once you stop trying to sell and start trying to consult, you stop chasing opportunities and start attracting them. That's the future of sales, and it starts right now. Honestly, guys, what we've just gone over today, if you take this on, you take the challenge I've given you, you watch all the material, you watch all my past videos. My previous video before this literally shown you the step-by-step guidance on how to apply for a role. It's shown you one of our closest Kai's application, first application he done, and then his improved application we done for him. That is what we do for people at the Remote Sales Academy. If you're tired of your 9 to 5, or you just want to earn that little extra £5,000 to £10,000 a month, remote sales is for you. You don't need to start a business. You don't need to register anything. You don't need to spend on ads. You don't need capital. You don't need to take a loan. You just need to get trained, trust the process, get the framework, and get plugged into a role. It's that simple. Click the link below and let's work together.